Imagine a railway so ambitious it could change the way goods move across the entire South American continent, and even reshape global trade. That's exactly what China plans to do in 2025. They're restarting the Two Oceans Railway, a project that will link the Pacific coast of Peru to the Atlantic coast of Brazil, cutting a direct path to Asia. Why does this matter? Right now, most goods from South America to Asia have to take the long maritime route, passing through the Panama Canal. But with this railway, China could bypass that canal entirely. It's not just a faster route, it's a strategic game-changer. For China, it's an opportunity to secure trade routes and reduce dependence on choke points controlled by others. For the United States, which has long monitored and exerted influence over the Panama Canal, it's a potential headache, a loss of leverage in global trade. This isn't just about building tracks and trains, it's about geopolitics, economics, and reshaping the influence map of South America. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this railway is more than infrastructure. By ismider by day. It's the zal by darber the mine and mine mandai by ken groter shadaf by and cry buying why and buy die wine day by in redefining global commerce. To understand why China is so motivated to build this railway, we need to look at its current trade routes and their weak spots. Right now, about 90% of China's exports travel by sea, and the most critical choke point is the Strait of Malacca. This narrow waterway, averaging just 2.8 kilometers wide at its tightest points, links the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. Over 60% of China's container ships pass through it each year, and around 80% of its imported oil travels this same route. In short, it's a lifeline, but also a potential bottleneck. Then there's the Panama Canal, another key artery. Every year, goods from China passing through the canal make up 6% of global maritime trade, and 21% of Chinese merchant ships rely on it. That's a lot of cargo riding on a single point of passage. Here's where the risk comes in. The United States has long maintained influence over the Panama Canal and has even threatened to tighten control. Imagine if a toll suddenly skyrocketed or certain ships were delayed. It could disrupt trade worth billions. This vulnerability isn't just theoretical, it's actually the reason China is looking for alternatives, like the Two Oceans Railway. By building a direct land route across South America, China can reduce its dependence on these maritime choke points and secure a faster, cheaper, and more reliable supply chain. Now that we understand the problem, let's look at China's bold solution, the Two Oceans Railway. This is not just any railway, it's a massive infrastructure project designed to cross the entire South American continent, connecting the Pacific coast in Peru to the Atlantic coast in Brazil. In total, the railway spans roughly 5,000 kilometers. About 2,000 kilometers already exist, but 3,000 kilometers still need to be built or upgraded. The goal is clear. Create a direct overland trade corridor that bypasses the Panama Canal. Once completed, goods can move from Brazil to Asia far faster and cheaper than before. For example, Brazilian soybeans could reach Chinese ports in under 30 days compared to the original 60-day maritime journey. The project is enormous. The estimated budget is around $60 billion, making it one of the largest infrastructure investments in Latin American history. China isn't going in blindly. In April 2025, Chinese engineers conducted on-site surveys in Brazil, analyzing existing railways, roads, and waterways to plan the most efficient and feasible route. This railway is more than tracks and trains, it's a strategic corridor designed to reshape trade, strengthen China's influence in South America, and reduce exposure to maritime choke points controlled by others. The Two Oceans Railway isn't just an idea on paper, groundwork has already been laid, and the most tangible example is the Chonke Port in Peru. Launched in 2021 as part of China's Belt and Road cooperation with Peru, the port is now operational with 4 deepwater berths. So, it can actually dock ultra-large container ships that carry up to 18,000 standard containers, and its initial throughput is about 1 million TEUs per year. There are long-term plans to boost that number to 1.5 million TEUs. Why does this matter? Well, before Chonke, goods traveling from Peru to Asia had to take this really lengthy route through Central or North America, which could take up to 35 days. Now shipping time is cut down to around 25 days, and overall logistics costs are dropping by about 20 to 30%. For Brazil, the railway will connect directly to Chonke Port, so exports like soybeans can reach Asia in less than 30 days, instead of the previous 60-day journey. In other words, the Two Oceans Railway, combined with Chonke Port, is creating a super corridor across South America that's faster, cheaper, and honestly more reliable than anything that's come before. You know, the idea of connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans by rail in South America isn't exactly new. It actually goes all the way back to the 1960s. Leaders across the continent envisioned this kind of transcontinental railway, but honestly, back then, the project was just far too ambitious. Economic development was really limited, technology was insufficient, and, well, the geography was brutally challenging. So, as a result, the plan never actually advanced. Fast forward to 2014, when China, Brazil, and Peru formally announced joint research on the Two Oceans Railway. By 2015, a memorandum of understanding was signed to study feasibility, but, you know, the challenges quickly became clear. The railway must cross the Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the world, with its humid climate, dense swamps, and flood-prone terrain. Once in Peru, the line would need to cross the Andes Mountains, averaging 4,300 meters and peaking at 6,768 meters, a technical feat comparable to, well, making an elephant dance on a tightrope. Beyond engineering, social and political factors slowed progress. Many indigenous communities live along the route, and construction had to carefully consider their rights and lifestyles. Political changes in Brazil and Peru, along with a huge funding gap, estimates ranged from $60 billion to $80 billion, further delayed the project. The United States also applied indirect pressure, worried that a transcontinental railway could weaken its dominance in global shipping. So, why is China confident it can succeed now where previous efforts stalled? The answer lies in technology, experience, and resources. Over the past decade, China has become a global leader in infrastructure construction, mastering railway projects in mountains, plateaus, and wetlands. Take the Lasini Railway, completed in 2021, it successfully crossed the rugged Hungan Mountains at over 3,000 meters, a challenge similar to navigating the Andes. Chinese engineers now have the expertise to tackle extreme terrain, which was once a major obstacle for the Two Oceans Railway. China is also applying sustainable and socially inclusive practices. Engineers are designing green channels to protect wildlife migration, using low-noise tunneling to minimize disruption to communities, and involving local residents in construction and operation. Financing, another major barrier, is now more manageable. China and Brazil have created a China-Brazil Capacity Cooperation Fund of $20 billion, with $15 billion contributed by China. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and other Chinese development institutions can also provide additional funding, offering over $45 billion in credit support to Latin America. The completion of the Two Oceans Railway isn't just a win for China, it has far-reaching economic and geopolitical consequences. First, it dramatically improves efficiency and lowers costs. Chinese trade with South America, currently worth over $280 billion annually, could save around 15% in logistics costs. South American countries also gain. Brazil, Peru, and others can export products more competitively, strengthen their economies, and integrate more closely with the global market. The railway creates a mutually beneficial corridor that doesn't rely on the Panama Canal, meaning countries along the route have more control over trade. Geopolitically, the railway reduces the United States' leverage in Latin America and global shipping. For decades, the United States has influenced trade routes through the Panama Canal, but this new corridor provides an alternative path that China can use to secure its supply chains. It also increases China's influence in infrastructure development across South America, setting a precedent for future projects in the region. The Two Oceans Railway is more than just steel tracks stretching across South America. It's a strategic lifeline, a symbol of China's growing influence and, honestly, a game-changer for global trade. By connecting the Pacific and Atlantic coasts, bypassing the Panama Canal, and cutting shipping times in half, it offers both economic efficiency and, geopolitical leverage. As this story unfolds, the world will be watching how South American countries make their choices and how China executes this ambitious plan. Will the Two Oceans Railway truly transform trade in the 21st century? Only time will tell. If you want to stay updated on this and other groundbreaking projects shaping global trade, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the next chapter of this historic journey.